Should we start or you want to wait? Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we will do the third verse of Nectar of Instruction. And today we have with us Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji to facilitate the call. So, once again, we are really inspired by all of your presence. So, thank you so much, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, for coming and taking up this service. Over to you, Mataji. You can take over. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Sundari Mataji. And a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us in this very wonderful series of Nectar of Instruction of Upadeshamrita. So today we'll be covering verse 3. And it's a very interesting verse. It'll keep you all very excited, I promise that. So let's head into our class. We'll start with the invocation prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschayati Deshtarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Hare Krishna. So we are continuing our series on Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami. So before we go further, I have a quick quiz for all of you. So you can raise hand or unmute or type it in chat, whatever is convenient for you. So in the verse 1 that we learned, the verse 1 was facilitated by Kirtida Sundari Mataji. So I want you to tell me, what is verse 1 about? It's about 6 blank. What is the blank about? Is it enemies, vices, activities in Krishna consciousness, urges, qualities, or regulations? What was the first verse about? Okay, you can unmute. Whoever has raised hand can unmute.
It is urges, Mataji.
Yes, the 6 urges. Very nice. Thank you, Vrinda Vaishnavi Mataji. And Ashish Gupta Prabhu, for you, the next question. Verse 2 is about 6 blank.
Vices.
Vices. Very nice. Yeah. So we saw the 6 urges and then we saw the 6 vices. So we also saw that because of our condition, we have these urges automatically. Because the urges are there, the vices are also there. Now, nothing is very negative in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so nothing is permanently negative. There is a way out for every problem that we have in our spiritual life. So today we are going to discuss something very, very positive, which is actually the 6 virtues, the virtues in Krishna consciousness. So we are going to kick out those vices and concentrate on the virtues. So before we get into it, we have to revise what we did in our previous session. So that is our pattern. We always revise whatever we have covered in the earlier session. So in our previous session that was facilitated by Vivek Prabhu, we saw the 6 vices that one has to avoid. So what are the 6 vices that one has to avoid? This is the verse. The verse is Atyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Niyamagraha, Janasanga, and Laulam. So these are the 6 vices. And for Atyahara means accumulating more than what is needed. We saw how that one should not acquire too much of goods, money, or whatever, more than his necessity. And we also saw the analogy of a bag of rice and how the birds actually just take how much ever they need, but whereas human beings have this tendency to accumulate. And we also saw the analogy of a $100 bill that is there on the road. The next one is prayasa. Prayasa means over-endeavoring. Over-endeavoring for what? Over-endeavoring for jnana, for knowledge, over-endeavoring for karma. So all kinds of over-endeavoring is called as prayasa. And what does it result in? What is the problem with prayasa? You have less time for the real inquiry. And what is the real inquiry? The real inquiry is about the absolute truth. Who am I? Who is God? What is my connection with God? So if we get too entangled in these things, we'll have less time for the correct inquiry. And what is the solution? The solution is one should focus. One should not waste time on unnecessary things, and one should focus on the real thing. The next one was Prajalpa. Prajalpa means actually in common terminology, it is called gossip. Okay, but Prajalpa is not just gossip, it is just useless talk. Any sort of useless talk is considered Prajalpa. And what is the disadvantage of Prajalpa? Obviously, it's a big waste of time. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. So how do we counteract that? We engage our time and our tongue in positive Krishna conscious conversation with devotees. And we saw the analogy of the frog. So what does the frog do? The frog keeps croaking, and because he's croaking, he's unnecessarily attracting the snakes that come and eat up the frog. The next one was niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means you reject too much rules, okay? At the same time, you have to accept the necessary rules, and you don't become too ritualistic. So that is what niyamagraha was all about. And how do we counteract that? We sincerely follow Vaidhi Bhakti. We accept proper rules and we follow Vaidhi Bhakti, or a proper devotional service that is given to us by our Acharya. So that is the solution. The next one was Janasanga. Janasanga means associating with those people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, or people who are very materialistic. So how do we counteract that? We choose the right devotee association to progress. And we saw the analogy of how important it is to actually get Bhakta Sane Vasa, meaning to get the right association. And the last one was Laulyam. Laulyam means greed, unsteadiness and greed. So how do we counteract that? We counteract that by remembering our true goal in life. And the analogy we saw is about the bhukti, mukti, and siddhi karmis. So what they do and what we need to avoid. So this is how the previous verse was covered, and the verse said that these six, they result in bhaktir vinashyati, meaning they destroy one's bhakti. Atyahara, prayasa, prajalpa, niyamagraha, janasanga, and laulyam. So these are the big problems. So now we are going to discuss about the positive side of it. That is, what is it that can actually nourish our Krishna consciousness? What are the virtues that we can imbibe to nourish our Krishna consciousness or to nourish our bhakti? So the 6 virtues to be imbibed are Utsaha nishchaya dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadpir bhakti prasiddhyati. The 6 principles that is favorable to the execution of pure devotional service is 1. Being enthusiastic. So everyone knows utsaha means enthusiasm. 2. Endeavoring with confidence, nishchaya, having full confidence and faith in what? In the process of devotional service. 3. Being patient, dhairyat. Actually, dhairyat is patience with fortitude. That is dhairyat. Tat karma pravartana, acting according to regulative principles like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Then abandoning the association of non-devotees and following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. So when we say Sangatyagat means avoiding unwanted association. Okay, you avoid unwanted association, but what sort of association do you take? You have to take the association of Sat, of the Sat people. Therefore, it is called as Sato Vritte. So we abandon the association of non-devotees and we follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, of the Sats. So we take their association. So if we do these 6 things, then our bhakti can actually progress. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure complete success in pure devotional service. So we saw that our body has urges, okay, we have problems, and we saw what can actually take us away from Krishna consciousness. What are the vices? Okay, so now we're going to concentrate on what are the virtues that we have to imbibe so that our bhakti can actually progress. So what is it that nourishes our devotional service is what we are going to see in today's session. So we'll go word by word so that we can break up this verse into little pieces and we can handle it easily. Utsaha is enthusiasm or eagerness. So without enthusiasm, no practice can be sustained, right? So we need enthusiasm. Nishchaya, confidence or firm faith. Dhairyat is patience or fortitude. Okay, one might be confused. How is dhairya patience? But then we'll figure out how dhairya is actually patience. We can also understand dhairya to be fortitude. Then tat karma pravartanat, that is following principles that are favorable to bhakti, that nourishes the bhakti creeper. So what are the principles that we have to do on a day-to-day basis? What is our sadhana that we have to do? That is tat karma pravartanat. Then sangatyagat, abandoning bad association. Remember, even in the previous verse, when we just summarized the previous verse, we had the same topic, abandoning bad association. So this was already covered. There's a flashback that we will see as we are progressing in the class. And by abandoning bad association, what's the next step we do? We follow in the footsteps of previous acharyas, sato vrittehe. And if we do these 6 items, then these 6 activities assure advancement and success in bhakti without hindrance. Okay, so now we are going to discuss each one of these 6 principles in great detail. But before we do that, we should first understand the science and glory of bhakti. So we are taking so much effort to cultivate devotional service, to cultivate bhakti in our hearts. But what is so great about bhakti? So that's the first step we should understand before we understand these 6 virtues. To understand the glory of bhakti, one should first understand what is bhakti and what is not bhakti. Okay, so there is a lot of confusion in initial practitioners about what bhakti is and what bhakti is not. Many of us, we get confused when we begin our Krishna consciousness. So what is bhakti not? First of all, it is not some sort of a sentimental speculation without reference to scripture. So we have all had this in our life as we were growing up. We had lucky charms. So if we had to pass in an exam and if we were going to school back in India, if there was a lucky spot, we would spend some time there. And if things worked out, if we spent 5 minutes under a tree, for example, and we went and wrote the exam and the exam was a success, we consider that tree to be lucky, right? So the next time we go to write the next exam, what we do is again, we wait under the tree for 10 minutes. Then this goes on and on. So after 9th grade, you start doing it in your 10th grade. So this goes on and eventually you start telling people, oh, that tree is lucky. If you wait there for 10 minutes, you'll guarantee, there is a guarantee that you will pass in your exam. So like you, 10 other people follow it. And then after a year, that becomes a place of worship. It becomes a temple. So like this, things happen in the world out of sentiment. People have lots of sentiments. They think this is lucky, that is unlucky. If I do this, then I'll be blessed. So like that, there are so many mental concoctions that is there in our minds. But all this mental, sentimental speculation is without any reference to scripture. No scripture has ever told us that if you wait under the tree for 10 minutes before writing your exam, everything will be perfect in your life. Nobody has told us that. But then it is a sentiment that you develop. It's a sentimental speculation in your mind. So we develop all sorts of faith by sentimental speculation, and we think that is bhakti, that is devotion. But then it is very clearly told by our acharyas that such sentimental speculation is not devotion. If you're not following scriptures, then it has nothing to do with bhakti. So whatever devotion you're doing, it should be in line with scripture. Then people sometimes they have some sort of imaginative ecstasies that they experience, and they think that is a spiritual awakening and that is bhakti. For example, some years back, like in the 1960s and 70s, LSD was a very famous drug, famous, or I should say notorious. So anyway, a lot of people were addicted to it. They took LSD and they felt some sort of an ecstasy because it's a psycho-altering drug. So they felt ecstasy, and they were thinking that that is spiritual ecstasy. So there were so many people in the West who felt that that is real spiritual ecstasy, that they are seeing God. But is that bhakti? Unfortunately, no, it is not bhakti. So some sort of an imaginative ecstasy is also not bhakti. And there are other classes of people who engage in idle meditation. So they sit down in one place, and you're told by the so called guru that meditate on nothing, meditate on nothingness. You should see only a black hole in your eyes. So things like this. So this is also not bhakti. Meditating on nothing is also not bhakti. But what is bhakti? Bhakti means practical cultivation, practical action. That's why bhakti in English is translated as devotional service. So it's just not a sentiment, it's just not devotion. Devotion can sometimes be understood to be a sentiment, but here it is practical cultivation. So bhakti is called as devotional service. So you have to do service with your body, mind, and your senses, and eventually your soul is nourished. So that is called as devotional service. And we'll see more about the process of bhakti as we proceed. So we said bhakti is a sort of a cultivation. It is active involvement, and it's something that you develop over a period of time. So now here there is a necessity for us to define what pure devotional service is. So we understood what devotional service is. It's a practical cultivation, okay? And you have, it's also in the mind, meaning like you have emotions for the Supreme Lord, and you also do practical service. So that is devotional service. But then what is pure devotional service? So pure devotional service is defined here in this verse. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavrtam anukulyena krishnanu shrilanam bhaktiruttama. When first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy, and fruitive action, meaning it should be unmotivated. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So, in this one verse, there is so much revelation. So, the first thing is in this verse is that it says, Anya bhilashita shunyam. One should be devoid of all material desires. So, if you have a deal with Krishna, Krishna, I will give you 10 rasagullas. Instead of those 10 rasagullas, you give me $25. So that is a deal. That is not pure devotional service. Pure devotional service must be devoid of all material desires. So you never go to Krishna for a material desire to satisfy your problem, to find a solution to your material problem. So that's the first thing. Second, knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy. So jnana karmadi anavratam. Both knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy and fruitive action should not be there in your devotion. Meaning, you do not perform devotional service for the sake of impersonal liberation. Oh, I want mukti from this world. I'm so fed up with this world. So I just want mukti. Let me get out of this. So I'll perform bhakti. That bhakti is not considered pure. And Your bhakti should not have any sort of motivation, any sort of motivation. One should not think that I'm doing this devotional service for a positive karma. So that's a very famous, popular thing that has caught up these days, doing something for accumulating good karma. So then that is motivated devotional service. It is not considered unmotivated devotional service. So a person should avoid all of this. Okay, he should be devoid of all material desires. He should not look out for knowledge obtained from monastic philosophy, and his devotion should be unmotivated. He must perform pure devotional service for what? For the pleasure of Krishna, to satisfy Krishna's desires. So if I'm not doing something for my desire, for whose desire am I doing that devotional service? I'm doing it for Krishna's pleasure. So that should be the mood in which we serve Krishna. So this sort of devotional service is defined as pure devotional service. Okay, and how do we execute this pure devotional service? So we saw a lot of definition, a lot of theory, but how do we execute it? We execute this pure devotional service, having that pure devotion in our mood. Physically, we have to execute devotional service by following these processes. So what are these processes? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So these are the 9 practical methods of practically doing your devotional service. It all begins with hearing. So we hear about the Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela of the Lord, meaning we hear the holy names, we hear the pastimes of the Lord, we relish. As we hear, we should start relishing these pastimes of the Lord and the holy names. And we should begin, as we are taking it in from our ears, we should also learn to vibrate it from our tongue. We should do kirtanam of the holy names, chanting softly for our own sadhana, doing congregational chanting. And not just that, one must also learn to recite the pastimes of the Lord. Okay, so chanting is there. First is hearing, then you have chanting. And it doesn't stop just with the ears and the tongue. Actual devotional service happens, or the good mood of devotional service is cultivated when you absorb this. So smaranam, when you absorb the glories of the Lord, when you absorb the holy name, that is when you're constantly thinking of Krishna, you're constantly thinking of the Lord. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, when you're doing this nicely, it results in Vishnoho Smaranam. So you begin to think about the Lord constantly, and the rest will automatically follow. Of course, we do other angas like Archanam, Vandanam, all this is continuously happening. Like many of us have deities, we do Archanam, we do Vandanam. When we go to the temple, we offer our obeisances. So like this, devotional service is very, very practical. It is very practical. It can be executed with our mind and body. So we use our limbs in the service of the Lord, and internally we should maintain this mood of Anyabhilashita Shunya. Bhagavatam, or many of our scriptures, also has practical examples of great devotees who have perfected the these different limbs of devotional service, the 9 limbs. So why do we have to know these examples? We must know these examples so that we can derive inspiration from them. So seeing them, we can understand how nicely one can actually execute Shravanam, how nicely one can execute Kirtanam. Here we have the examples. Maharaj Parikshit, he perfected Shravanam. He heard the Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days without food and water. So he is a great example for a person who has perfected Shravanam. We have Shukadev Goswami, who spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, who perfected Kirtanam. He constantly spoke about the glories of the Lord. Vishnoho Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj. He had the Lord in his heart. All the time he was thinking of the Lord in spite of any sort of adversity that could be. Padasevanam, Mother Lakshmi, she is always at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, serving him constantly. Archanam, Prithu Maharaj. Vandanam, Akrura. Dasyam, Hanuman, Sakyam, Arjuna, the great friend of Krishna. Atma Nivedanam, Bali Maharaj, who gave everything to the Supreme Lord. And of course, from the Bhagavatam, we understand that Maharaj Parikshit executed All these 9 processes of devotional service. So this is all information for us, these different devotees, because this information is helpful because as we understand the lives of these devotees, we can aspire to follow in their footsteps. So that's the reason the examples are also mentioned along with the 9 processes of devotional service. Now we saw that bhakti is glorious. Okay, bhakti is glorious. What is bhakti? What is not bhakti? We saw that. Then we saw what is pure devotional service and how to practically execute devotional service. So we've seen a lot of information, but then nothing is complete or nothing is perfect if we do not have guidance from Guru. Without a Guru's guidance, any sort of spiritual practice is meaningless. So this is confirmed again and again in all our scriptures. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself talks about the importance of Guru. He says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. What should you do when you approach a spiritual master? You should inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. So 2 things. One is submissively inquire. Don't ask him in a challenging mood. And you should render service unto him. Take a submissive position and serve him. So when you do that, a self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you. Why? Because he has already seen the truth. He is a tattva darshana. He's seen the truth. So therefore, he can impart the right knowledge unto you. And not only that, even in the Upanishads, it is mentioned, like for example, the Mundaka Upanishad says, Tad vijnanartam sa gurumeva abhigachet. So if one wants real knowledge, one must go to Guru. And now there could be a question. There are so many gurus. So where shall I go? There are so many frauds. There are so many gurus out there in the world. So where should I go? You should go to a guru who's Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. One who's Shrotriyam, meaning he's learned. He is also in the disciplic succession. He has also learned from his spiritual master in the disciplic succession that is originating from the Supreme Lord. And he's Brahmanishtam. Brahmanishtam means he's fixed. His faith is fixed in the process of Krishna consciousness. So one who is a devotee is Brahmanishtam. So if you go to a pure devotee of the Lord who is the Guru, then you can actually practice devotional service. Okay. So there's a very nice connection of how this whole thing has come out. So now we understood bhakti. We understood what is bhakti, what is not bhakti, what is pure devotion, how to practically execute devotion, how to get that devotion, because the Guru is the one who's going to guide you. Now, what is the use of this bhakti? What is the use of it? We are all here in this material world. Brahmanda Brahmite Kone Bhagyavan Guru Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. We are here in this universe traveling in this Brahmanda from one planetary system to the other. In the course of traversing the universal creation of Brahma, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service. This is all by the grace of Guru and Krishna. So by the grace of Guru, we have received this Bhakti Lata Beej. We have received a small seed of devotional service. And we should water the seed, and the seed slowly grows into a sapling. And then that creeper grows and grows and grows, and it reaches the spiritual world. It takes us out from this confinement to the state of liberation. So Bhakti Lata Beej. So that little seedling of devotional service can actually take us out of confinement and take us to liberation. So here you see a picture of a boy behind a jail. So can this boy release himself? No, he cannot release himself. He's locked. But a person from outside who has the key can release him. So the Guru is the one who has that key. Okay, and he can help you actually get out of this material confinement. And of course, Krishna becomes very merciful to such a devotee who's surrendered, and he comes and he gives his helping hand to the person who is in this ocean of samsara, who's drowning in this ocean of samsara. as you see in this picture. So basically, we have to surrender. That is the point. We have to surrender to a guru, and then Krishna is surely going to help us. Okay, so now we've had enough introduction about bhakti. Okay, so we are all confident about what devotion is not, what is pure devotion. And then we saw so many details about how it is so beautiful. The process is very practical. And then we saw that the secret formula to success is surrendering to a guru, because the guru has the key to release us from this confinement. And the award you get is you're out of this and you taste pure devotional service, and you continue to do pure devotional service even after you're liberated, because you're in association with the Supreme Lord. Okay, so now that we are confident about the bhakti, let's see what are the 6 things that helps us progress in this path of devotional service. The first one was utsaha, enthusiasm or eagerness. So any process, even in this material world, when you take up any task, for you to complete that task, you need enthusiasm. So if you're not enthusiastic, or if you're not eager to do it, obviously you will not attain success. The same thing is applicable for devotional service also. You should endeavor with intelligence. You should have the right intelligence, and you should endeavor with intelligence. That is called as utsaha. So utsaha is not some sentiment, okay? Like, okay, I want to do this. It's not just I want to do this. You should also have sufficient intelligence to do it the right way. So we have already seen a little bit, background about how you do it the right way. You follow in the footsteps of acharyas, and you know your goal, and you proceed in the process of devotional service. So enthusiasm is a very, very important anga as you are practicing devotional service. You follow all the limbs of devotional service that we discussed already with great respect and faith. Okay. And with enthusiasm, you continue to progress and you become indifferent. You should be indifferent to jnana, karma, and unwanted material enjoyment, because these are impediments. These will reduce our enthusiasm. If we get too diverted, obviously our enthusiasm is going to be impeded. So if we can do this, then we can progress in devotional service. Now, when we say enthusiasm should also be long lasting. It's not that today I will chant 64 rounds and tomorrow I will not even chant a round. Okay, so that is not sustained enthusiasm. Today I will read 50 verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. For the next 20 days, I won't touch the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is not sustained enthusiasm. Without enthusiasm, bhakti cannot be long lasting. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami gives us a very simple solution to keep our enthusiasm going. The solution is use the principle of Yukta Vairagya. So we have this Zoom in which we are talking, we are discussing the Nectar of Instruction, which is actually nurturing our devotional service, right? So in this process, we are doing some Shravanam Kirtan. It's nurturing our Krishna consciousness. So Zoom itself is not bad. With Zoom, you can be doing 100 other things, but then we choose to practice Krishna consciousness through this medium. So use everything you have in the service of Krishna. That is Yukta Vairagya. Use it positively in the service of Krishna. So everything we have may appear to be a diversion. It may appear to be a diversion. It might be appearing like it's a hindrance in the practice of our devotional service, but still we can use it in the service of Krishna and keep our enthusiasm going. So here you have a picture of the famous boy Dhruva, who saw the Lord face to face when he was just 5 years old. How much enthusiasm he must have had. In fact, Narada, who was a spiritual master, was discouraging him. He was telling him, you're a small boy, you're just 5 years old, you should be playing in this age. What are you trying to do? Why are you meditating? And what's all this ambition about seeing the Lord? But then Dhruva, he was very, very enthusiastic. He was very enthusiastic. He said, no, I have to see the Lord. I have to see the Lord face to face. And he was so enthusiastic. He practiced the process perfectly, of course, by the mercy of his Guru Narada Muni, and he saw the Supreme Lord face to face. So this is a very beautiful picture of the Supreme Lord seeing Dhruva Maharaj, and Garuda standing there, and the Supreme Lord touches his head with a shank. So that is the picture that you see here. So Utsaha, it's very, very important. And all our previous acharyas and so many examples from scriptures, they have all shown how important it is to actually be enthusiastic, and one should have sustained enthusiasm, not just enthusiastic. The next is nischaya, confidence or faith. In what? Confidence and faith in Krishna consciousness or bhakti or scriptures. So one should have firm faith in, first, statement of the scriptures. Because, the Upanishads, they say Shastra Yonitvat. One can understand the Supreme Lord through the scriptures. So one may not be able to speculate and understand the Supreme Lord. One can only understand the Supreme Lord when one opens up scriptures and reads them to understand the Supreme Lord, of course, with the guidance of Guru. So one should have firm faith and confidence in the statement of scriptures and Guru, not any Guru, but a Guru who is in line with scriptures, one who repeats scriptures as it is. That's why our Bhagavad Gita is called as Bhagavad Gita as it is. And one should have firm faith that this Bhagavad Bhakti is our ultimate objective. It is interesting that devotional service is not only our sadhana, but it is also the sadhya. That means it is not just the process and your goal is different. Even after you attain perfection, even then you would be doing devotional service. So devotional service is the ultimate objective also. It is also our goal. And it's such a happy process. It's such a happy process that you're in constant bliss while you're practicing it, and even after you have perfected it. So that is our Bhagavad Bhakti. Bhagavad Bhakti is the ultimate objective. And for a person to have this much conviction and surrender, this much confidence and surrender, it involves complete faith and confidence that Krishna will protect. One should have so much faith. Surrender involves confidence in Krishna's protection. So unless one has that faith that Krishna will protect, it is very difficult for him to progress. You see the picture of Prahlad Maharaj here. What all Prahlad Maharaj went through. His own father was torturing him in so many ways. He was put in a pit of snakes. He was thrown from a mountain cliff. Elephants were sent to trample on him and whatnot. So he went through so many tribulations, but he had complete faith in Krishna's protection. He didn't even move a bit. He was completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and Krishna actually protected him. Avashya rakide Krishna. So one has complete faith that Krishna will always protect him. When one has such sort of a confidence, then one becomes successful in his execution of devotional service. So this was 2, nischaya. The third is dairya, patience or fortitude. So it's, patience, sometimes we just relate it to just being patient. Yes, you have to be patient, but you should also have fortitude along with that patience. Fortitude means what? You should practice and be patient in Krishna consciousness even amidst obstacles. This is very, very, very important. Devotional service appears very easy. Yes, it is a very easy path. It is a solid path, solid path of spiritual realization. It's very, very easy. It is very solid and foolproof process. But there is no guarantee that devotees will not undergo tribulations. Every devotee will undergo severe reversals and tribulations. That is a given fact. Okay. So devotional service, you will have it. We should not think that, oh, now I've become a devotee and now I don't have any problem. No, that's not devotional service. Even if you have problems, you should remember that you should be patient and you should have this element of fortitude, and you'll be able to progress in devotional service. Okay, even when there is a delay in achieving the goal, one should endeavor with patience. When we want to progress in our spiritual life, it's not that today I start chanting and tomorrow I see Krishna face to face. It's not like that. it takes several years to perfect chanting, or it takes several years to understand one verse of the Bhagavatam properly. So that is devotional service. Devotional service takes a long time. There may be delays in achieving the goal. You might run through several impediments, but you should endeavor with patience and fortitude, because remember, Krishna is not going to leave you. Krishna will not just abandon you. Okay, this is a way of growing up. So even when we have problems, if we face it with fortitude, we can actually progress in our devotional service. When Krishna says he protects us, it doesn't mean that Krishna only protects the body. That is not his protection. Body, yes, he will protect when it's needed. But he actually, what he says is that he will actually protect your existence in terms of faith that you have for him. If you are patient, if you have fortitude, Krishna will protect your bhakti and your faith. Okay, so dhairya, patience or fortitude is extremely important. You should have firm conviction, whatever the situation may be, that bhakti is the only way. So if we think today I'm getting problems because I'm a devotee, and if we move to a different faith, then there is no guarantee that you will be progressing there. One should have this firm faith that bhakti is the only way, and he should be determined to remain in bhakti without slackening one's execution. Just because we have problems, it doesn't mean that we say, I will stop chanting today. Okay. So if we do that, then we are not progressing in any way. Take the example of Prabhupada, and we have a picture of Haridas Thakur here. So let's look at their examples. Srila Prabhupada, what tribulation he did not go through. What tribulation he did not go through. At the age of 70, that was the age he decided to come to the West. And what happened during his travel? He had 2 heart attacks. He had seasickness. So if he had thought, oh, this devotional service is so difficult, Krishna is so bad to me, he's not helping me in any way, and if he had left it and gone, today would we have ISKCON? So, that was just one part, okay? He traveled with so much difficulty, and after coming to the West, these tribulations continued. He went through a lot in New York. He went through a lot in Pennsylvania. Wherever he went, it was not at all easy. His tape recorder was stolen. His typewriter was stolen. He was, looted by a drug addict. So much problems. He was all by himself. He was all alone. He didn't have his family members. He didn't have even money. Some people say, yes, he had 40 rupees when he came, but then Srila Prabhupada's son said even that he actually gave away to buy medicines before he actually boarded the Jaladuta. So Prabhupada practically had nothing. He didn't have money. He did not have men. He didn't have anything that we call as our strength. He didn't have anything. He just came to the West and he started this Krishna consciousness movement under a tree chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And that Krishna consciousness movement today has spread far and wide. And in every house, we have the Bhagavad Gita, and we have the luxury of studying scriptures today, even without stepping out of our house. So that is the achievement that that Prabhupada has done, so that bhakti can be spread to every town and village, even in the Western countries. So one must have fortitude. It's not that Prabhupada didn't undergo any problems and very easily, ISKCON was established. But today we are celebrating Srila Prabhupada for all that he has gone through. And not only Prabhupada, you look at any example that is given in the Bhagavatam, look at the Pandavas. They went through tribulation after tribulation. You look at the example of Maharani Kunti, she tells us, give me more trouble. Oh, Krishna, I want more trouble so that I can think of you constantly. So like that, almost each and every example, their life was not easy, but then they succeeded in bhakti because they had dhairya. They had this patience of fortitude. Here we see the picture of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was tested in so many ways. He was tested by Maya Devi herself. He was tested by Lakshakira, and then he was again tested by Maya Devi. But still, he never stopped chanting. The process of chanting went on, and he is actually Namacharya. So fortitude is extremely important. The next one, okay, before we move to the next part, we'll see some analogies that Prabhupada gives. Prabhupada says that patience is extremely important. How? Just like a newly married girl cannot expect to have a baby as soon as she is married. It has to take at least 10 months for her to actually get the baby out, right? You put a seed in the soil, you can't expect the plant to come out tomorrow. You'll have to wait for the seed to germinate, and then a little sprout comes out, and then it grows into a plant, and then it becomes a tree, and it bears flowers, and then the fruits come, and then the fruits ripen, then you can pick the fruit and eat. So it's not that I planted today and tomorrow I get juicy fruits. No, everything takes time. So similarly, attaining perfection and devotional service also takes time. So that's how bhakti is. We should have the patience in bhakti for us to succeed. Nothing happens immediately. But if we cultivate that patience, then we can do devotional service very nicely, and we can also succeed in this path of devotional service. The next one is tat karma pravartanat. That is executing the principles of devotional service enthusiastically. And what are the principles of devotional service? We already discussed that in great detail, Shravanam Kirtanam. So these are called as Vaidi, meaning certain things that we accept in the process of devotional service. But there are also certain things we avoid in the process of devotional service, just like when you go to a doctor. When you go to a doctor, the doctor gives you a prescription and he tells you avoid drinking milk for 10 days, avoid eating too much sweets. So he gives you a prescription, right? With the prescription of the medicines that you have to take, he also tells you what to avoid. So like that, even in devotional service, there are some things you do and some things you do not do. What do? You do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. All of this are things that is like your prescription from the doctor. What is it that you do not do? What are the prohibitions? Of course, the 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no illicit relationships, no intoxication, and no gambling. So if we can do this, if we can accept the right things and avoid the unwanted things, then our bhakti will be cultivated nicely. Bhakti poshana. So it gets poshan. It's cultivated nicely. You see this picture here. There is this angry weed. He's a weed and he's squeezing the throat of a nice flower that has just blossomed. So if we try to, do everything parallelly, I want to take prescriptions and I will also continue to follow the prohibitions. Okay, I will not avoid the prohibitions, but I will also continue to follow the prohibitions. If we think everything is okay, I can do everything parallelly, then it is like keeping a weed right in front of a beautiful flower. So constantly that weed is going to keep choking that flower. So that is the reason we pull out this weed. We don't want this. If you pull out this weed, then this flower will grow very nicely. That's why you have prohibitions and you also have prescriptions. So even in the path of dhyana, you have yama niyama, right? So what you should accept and what you should not accept. Any spiritual path, if you see, you would have prescriptions and prohibitions. Even in your today, it's very it's a big fancy to have a hourglass figure, right? Everyone wants to be very thin and beautiful. So what do we do for that? We have to follow very strict diets. There are prohibitions. There are all sorts of new age diets that we have today, and you should not eat carbs, you should not eat sugar, you should not eat dairy, you should not eat anything. So there are prohibitions, and then there are prescriptions. You should eat only vegetables, you should eat only fat. So like that, you have these prohibitions and prescriptions for any process. For you to gain success in any process, you have prohibitions and prescriptions, and bhakti is not, any exception. You have to follow these prohibitions and prescriptions properly. The 5th one is sangatyaga, avoiding bad association. Asat sangatyaga a Vaishnavachar. So a Vaishnava's achar is that he should avoid asat sanga. We saw what is satsanga, right? Satsanga is taking association of saintly people. Asat sanga is the opposite. You do not take association of materialistic people. So asat sanga includes karmis, jnanis, atheists, too much association with opposite gender, and pseudo-religionists. Very, very important, pseudo-religionists. So these people, all of them are considered asat sanga. Why? because they can easily influence us and divert us from the path of devotional service. Classic example is Manthara and Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was actually a very sane person. She was a very nice person. She was very favorable to Lord Ramachandra. But then what happened? She gave her ear to Manthara. So as she kept hearing Manthara's bodhan, the more and more she heard the philosophy that was fed into her ears by Manthara, her mind changed. Birds of the same feather flock together. You must have heard this. And tell me your friends, and I can tell who you are. These are all common phrases you must have heard. So definitely your association has a great influence on you. So one should be very, very careful to choose the right association. One may say, my friend is an atheist, but he's such a nice person. He's very good at heart. Very common phrase that you hear in India. He doesn't have faith in God, but he's very good at heart. Actually, that good at heart doesn't stay long. That is what our acharyas tell us, that if you're not a devotee, if you do not have faith in the Supreme, your so-called good at heart is only temporary. It cannot stay long. Even to be a nice person, you need the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So that's how conditioned we are. Even to stay as a good person for long, you actually need the Lord's mercy. You have to be dependent on the Lord. So if you're not a devotee, you cannot be a long-sustained good person, period. So that's how it is described. So even if there are a million faults in a person, if that person can take up to pure devotional service over a period of time, through the process of devotional service, his heart gets cleansed. Just like we say, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, right? So as we are chanting, what happens? The mirror of our heart gets cleansed. So through the process of devotional service, even a very bad person can actually become a good person over a period of time. But a person without faith, a person who doesn't follow any devotional service and who takes so much pride in calling himself as an atheist, has less hope. He might be a nice person, but these qualities are considered only temporary. Now, a quick flashback, as I said, in our previous class also we had the same topic of Jana Sangha. So it's the same thing. Sangha Tyaga, that's how it is put in this verse. But in the previous verse, it was called Jana Sangha, association with worldly minded people. And this was covered in the previous session. So I wanted to bring out this slide. And in the slide, we discussed that it is not good for us to take too much association of people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, in Mayavadis, in Bhukti, Siddhi, and Mukti Kamis. If you associate too much with Mayavadis, obviously their philosophy is going to rub onto you. So Mayavada Bhasha Sunile Hoy Sarvanash, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. So don't even listen to that philosophy, because it's just going to bring, it's going to just destroy all your Krishna consciousness. And we also saw practical application that one should always associate with people or devotees who help us in the watering of this seed of devotion, with this Bhakti Lata, Bij. How do you water the seed? You water the seed by Shravanam Kirtanam. That is the watering process. So when you take association of people who are constantly watering it, you also continue to water the seed, and the seed will grow into a beautiful creeper. So you should choose the right association. And as you choose the right association, all positive qualities will automatically develop. So enmity will cease and peace will increase around us. So you become a good person. Okay. The next point is Sato Vritti. Following the previous acharyas, we saw we avoid bad sangha and we take good sangha. So Sato Vritti means to adopt good behavior and virtuous conduct of pure devotees in whom all good qualities reside. So now we have our acharyas who have all the good qualities in them. So as we associate with them, we also develop good behavior and all virtuous conduct comes upon us. So, taking good association is not difficult actually. So in our own varna and ashrama, we can stay and take good association. For example, sannyasis, they have to regulate their lives. Sannyasis are like bees who collect honey. They go from one house to the other. They collect some madhukari. They do not take full association of materialistic people. They just collect some madhukari and they eat whatever is needed for the sustenance of their body, and they take the association of other people who are in devotional service. Similarly, grihasthas also, we can follow our principles of varna and ashram. We can stay in our grihastha ashram, continue our life, include Krishna consciousness in everything that we are doing, and take association of like-minded devotees. So how do we fill our lives with Krishna consciousness day in and day out? Of course, we have to be practical. We are going out in this world. We are earning. We are collecting. We are earning for. We are working for someone. We are earning money to sustain our livelihoods, feed our kids. So obviously, we have to be practical. We can stay in the Grihastha ashram, and at the same time, what we need to do is we need to put on the morning program armor. So just like a soldier who's going out to fight, if he wears an armor, there is a great protection that is awarded to him because of that armor. Like this picture you see here. So he has the shield and he has a full armor and he has a spear. So he's fully equipped. So like that, staying in whatever ashram we are in, we can still put on the morning program armor. And what is the morning program about? Morning program is, of course, you chant your rounds, you do your deity worship, you hear Srimad Bhagavatam class, and then you head out into the world. If you put on this morning armor, chant your prayers, do everything in the morning, do your sadhana, and then go out, then your entire day is protected. So even if we are in Grihastha ashram, still we can put on this armor and we can go out to this world. So we can fill our lives with Krishna consciousness and we can stay Krishna conscious every moment. So just like the example of vaccination is given. So we have the pandemic now. What do they tell us? They tell us you have your first dose, then you put your second dose, and then you put your booster shot. Why are we putting all this vaccination? We are putting all this vaccination so that when we go out and when we are exposed to many people, we do not catch on to the virus easily. So that is the point, right? So similarly, in this world, we have these three modes of material nature that is constantly acting on it. But then we take this vaccination of the morning program. Okay, we put on that armor and we take that vaccination. And when we go out to the world, it becomes very easy for us to sustain the assaults of Maya, and we can slowly rise to the platform of Vishuddha Sattva. We can transcend these modes if we are in constant association. So physically, we may not be in constant association of devotees, but because we have put on that armor, we have that constant protection that is awarded to us throughout the day. So we saw all the 6 points. So what are the 6 points? We saw Utsaha, then we saw Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tat Karma Pravartanat, Sangatyaga, Satovritte, and these are the 6 that helps us progress in devotional service. So that is the verse. Now there is one personality who exemplified this entire verse. If you ask, is there one person who had all this? Okay, the example given is Shabari. So Shabari, she had utsaha, she had extreme enthusiasm. She was in the ashram of her spiritual master, and she was very, very enthusiastic to serve the sages and her spiritual master constantly. Nishchaya, she had firm faith in the words of her spiritual master. Her spiritual master told her, I'm going back to Godhead. You stay here and wait till Ram comes. She had firm faith. She had firm faith in the words of her spiritual master that she had a service left and she had to stay back. And dhairya, patience or fortitude, in spite of staying back, everyone has gone back to Godhead. She didn't revolt. She didn't tell her spiritual master that, oh, you're leaving me. You're so mean. You just left me and you went. No, she had faith. She had faith that she had an important service. And she had dhairya. She had so much fortitude. She was waiting for so many years with great patience. So she was collecting these little berries and she was cleaning the ashram and she was waiting. She had faith in her spiritual master's words that one day Lord Ramachandra will come. And she had tat karma pravartana. She was executing the principles of devotional service as taught by a spiritual master. She was obviously avoiding bad associations. She continued to live in the ashram and she followed the words of her Purvacharya, her spiritual master, and she made sure that she stayed on, and finally she gained the audience of Lord Ram face to face. And there's something interesting here. Shabari perfected her life. She was awarded liberation, but she was awarded liberation by her spiritual master. Lord Ramachandra did not award her liberation. Ramachandra, the supreme Lord, was only a sakshi for her liberation. She tells Rama, I'm going back to Godhead, and she leaves because she has so much conviction and faith in the words of her spiritual master. She was so connected to her spiritual master that her spiritual master took her back to Godhead in spite of seeing the Lord face to face. So Lord Ramachandra was a sakshi for her liberation. So that's how great she was. She was such a great personality who exemplified this entire verse. So we can learn a lot from the different characters who are discussed in the Bhagavatam and the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So they have so much to tell us. So one such personality who's not often glorified is actually has exemplified this entire verse. So now we have seen how bhakti can be nourished, how we can progress in devotional service. And so why should we progress in devotional service? What is so great about devotional service? There are some cool facts about devotional service, how nice it is. It is the ultimate path, of course. It is the goal and perfection of human life. It is the most happy process. It is always a process that awards constant bliss. And interesting part is that there is no fall down because Krishna guarantees that. Krishna says, Name bhaktya pranashyati. He says, my devotee will not perish. He has given that word. Okay, once Krishna gives his word, he can't do anything about it. He can't go back on it. He's given that word. Actually, there is no loss in bhakti. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Krishna has guaranteed this also. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. Little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. And Bhagavatam says, one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down. Okay, yes, we have seen people who may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. We are all immature, so there could be fall downs. Yet, okay, this is very reassuring. It says, yet, there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. So if Krishna has given his word, Bhagavatam is substantiating Krishna's words. Bhagavatam is telling there could be a slight slip. Like when you're climbing a hill, sometimes you may slip down a little bit, but then you catch on to the rocks and then you can actually climb up. So Bhagavatam says, sometimes so one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. So why is there so much confidence in this process? Because in this process, we are completely dependent on the Lord. The reins is in the Lord's hands. Okay, we surrender to the Lord and the Lord takes the responsibility for our progress. So bhakti is all about dependence. So the more we depend on the Lord, the more he becomes responsible for us. So he takes charge of our devotional service and he helps us through the process. So basically, the glory of bhakti is that success is guaranteed and you're forcibly dragged to success. Just like you see this analogy of a magnet and this iron filings here. You see, this magnet is like Krishna. What does the iron filings have to do to get attracted like that? Anyone wants to unmute and tell what is it that you have to do to get attracted like that?
Bhakti.
Yeah, bhakti. But for the iron filings, what does the iron filings have to do?
To stay near the magnet.
Exactly, to go close to the magnet, that's all. So if the iron filings are taking just 2 steps, the 50 other steps are taken by Krishna. Krishna just takes you off like that. So it's very easy. Just take those 2-3 steps and Krishna will pull you in. Like this beautiful GIF image that you see here. So the magnet is just held close. You just have to go near the magnetic field, 2-3 steps, and then you're taken in. So you're forcibly dragged to success. And you can resume again even if you slip, even if you trip, even if you slip. Krishna gives us hand and you can climb up further. It is causeless and ceaseless. It is ahaituki apratihata. What is the reason for Krishna giving you mercy? It is causeless mercy. Krishna wants to give mercy, so he's giving you mercy. What is the reason you found a book from a book distributor? Causeless mercy. You just went on the street to probably grab a pizza and you got this book. And today you're in Krishna consciousness. Causeless mercy. Apratihata. It is ceaseless. Of course, it never stops because you continue. It is the process, it is the goal. All good qualities are obtained just by practicing devotional service. You become a much better human being. And there is no material contamination. How do we say that? Because Krishna is like fire. If you put an iron rod into fire, what happens? The iron rod becomes as good as fire. So you are in constant association of Krishna. If we cultivate bhakti like that as we progress, if we are in constant thoughts and association of Krishna, then there is no material contamination. So these are the glories of devotional service. Oh, there is our summary. Here we go. Summary of this entire verse. Hold on. Okay, full screen. So what did we discuss today? First, we saw the verse. The verse itself is speaking about the 6 virtues for advancement in devotional service. What do we need? We need utsaha, nischaya, dhairya, tattat karma pravartanat, sangatyaga, satovritti. What is utsaha? Endeavoring with enthusiasm, intelligence. Intelligence is very important. Intelligent enthusiasm. And one should have long-lasting enthusiasm. What is the example? Example is that of Dhruva Maharaj. Nischaya, faith or confidence. Surrender involves faith in Krishna's protection. One should have confidence that avashya rakhibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me. And the example was that of Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj was always confident. He never had any doubts. Dhairya, patience or fortitude. Bhakti should be practiced even in the midst of calamities. If you're able to practice bhakti even in the midst of calamities, then there will be progress. Example is our dear Srila Prabhupada and Haridas Thakur, and so many other examples. But Srila Prabhupada is a very good example because he's someone who was with us recently, right? Just a few years ago, he was here. He's gone through so much that many of us, actually, he went through much more. But still, practically, you can understand from the example of Srila Prabhupada. Tattat karma pravartana. So prescriptions and prohibitions. So 9 processes of devotional service is the prescription, and there are prohibitions, just like the analogy of the doctor's prescription. The next one was sanga tyaga, avoiding bad sanga, and we don't take too much association of karmis, jnanis, opposite gender, mayavadis, because whatever they have in their mind and whatever they talk is obviously going to rub on to us. And the example we saw is that of Mantra and Kaikeyi. And satovritti, following the previous acharyas. So for that, we need to hear from our previous acharyas. We should engage in the morning program. We should chant. We should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, do our deity worship, our prayers, everything in the morning. Take that vaccination. Take that vaccination for the day and head out. If we do all of this, then success, our advancement in bhakti is guaranteed. So that's all this verse is about. And so any questions, realizations, comments, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, for such a wonderful session and for clearing each and every part of that verse. So yes, we have Mukunda and Kanchan who have raised their hands. I also want devotees, you can please raise your hands, and if okay for you, you can type your questions on the chat box. So Mukunda and Kanchan, please go ahead and unmute.
Thank you, Mataji, for explaining the third verse of Upadeshamrita so nicely. I loved how you explained all the points. I did not have any question, but I just wanted to appreciate you for just giving such a good class, because you give really good classes. It was really nice, Mataji. You explained really nicely.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mukund. It's such a pleasure to have you on all the calls, and you're a very, 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 very nice child, very attentive, and you're amazing. Thank you so much for being there.
Okay, thank you, Mukunda. Nitya Narsimha Prabhu, you can take over.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. As Mukund said, really this platform of Satsanga as exalted devotees, Mataji. So very nice class. Thank you very much. Mataji, my question is on the fortitude. Like, will you able to give one example of you so that it will help me, Mataji?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I should say this, but yeah, I lost my husband recently. It's been a year now, and but one thing I can guarantee you: this process of Krishna consciousness is so powerful. We are just underestimating it. That's the truth. We are just underestimating it. It just covers you so beautifully. Krishna is very merciful. And as I mentioned, Krishna may or may not protect one's body, but he protects one's bhakti. And the success is guaranteed. Even if the person is not there with you, his success is guaranteed and your success is guaranteed. The process is very powerful. And we have the shelter of our previous acharyas. If they give their word, it will happen. So I have full faith in the process. And I think everyone should continue this process, whatever reversal you may have. I mean, every reversal is minuscule in front of Krishna's protection. And I say this with full confidence. No other process can keep you so solid. I have, before coming to the path of devotional service, I've explored other processes. Not that I practiced them, but I did explore them with my reading and intelligence. But nothing is as reassuring as devotional service. So devotional service is the ultimate thing for each one of us. It doesn't matter which reversal you are in. Krishna will take care.
Thank you, Mataji. Sorry to ask this question, but yeah, it was very well explained, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your question. And everyone on the call, I know we all have doubts. We all have doubts about the process. We have doubts about so many things that happen in our own lives. You know, I've taken to the process of bhakti, but maybe it's not working. Please don't think like that. This process, I mean, we are probably the most fortunate people who are walking this globe. Most fortunate people. Yeah. And we are so fortunate that we have taken birth after Srila Prabhupada, after the movement has spread like this, and we are second generation devotees where everything is set up. So imagine the first generation devotees, they went through so much. If you or me were there in their shoes, you think we would have taken all the effort to go to different countries and preach and give up our luxury and live in huts in Mayapur? Would we do that? Would we go to Vrindavan just like that, leaving our family and everything? We wouldn't have done any of that. But second generation devotees, we have the luxury of our home. We don't have to sacrifice anything, but still we can practice fantastic devotional service. We have everything on Veda base. In a click, you have the entire Srimad Bhagavatam in front of you. What more do we need in the comfort of our house? We have Zoom, we are chanting 16 rounds in the Association of Devotees. We have the luxury of chanting extra rounds. I mean, it's so beautiful. The process is so beautiful and reassuring. And we are probably the most fortunate people. So we should never doubt this process, never doubt the mercy of Krishna. Surely, each one of us, I mean, Krishna, we're all very dear to Krishna. Krishna will take care. And we have such a very, very potent line of acharyas who can, even if we are the worst, I tell you, even if, we are given so much information on how to take the process seriously. Even if you haven't taken the process seriously for some reason, still our acharyas are very merciful that they will drag you forcibly. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Preethi Mataji, for that beautiful answer. And yes, we have everything in our hands now. Now we have to prove ourselves. So Swati Mataji raised her hand, but probably her question got answered. Anyone else have any other question? You can raise your hands. You can type it in the chat box.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I raised the hand, but I got a little emotional by your session. Sorry for that, but my question is that I have only Brahmurat to chant.
Okay.
And since my family don't like chanting, so I am a working woman and a mother of a toddler. So I can't sleep at 9 or 10.
Okay.
So sometimes I chant, sometimes I can't. So how to be punctual, Mataji?
You cannot chant in front of others at home. Is that a problem?
Yes.
Chant in front of others. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So before the rest of them wake up, that's when you chant. Is that what you're telling?
Yes, I feel better and they don't see me chanting.
Better they don't see you chanting. Okay. So Mataji, some things that come to my mind, and especially because you have a toddler, it's going to be extremely hard. Yes, early morning or after everyone has slept or before everyone is awake. Generally, Brahma Muhurtam is the best time to chant, at least most of your rounds. You try to do that before everyone wakes up. But if you're not being able to complete your 16 rounds, there are 2-3 things that is suggested. Like I know of a few friends of mine who had kids and they were finding it very difficult to complete 16 rounds because, taking care of a newborn and there's a lot of pressure and then family pressure. It's very hard. So one of the suggestions that was given by my friend spiritual master is to always, keep the bead bag in your mind. Actually, for her, practically, he told her to just put the bead bag around her neck and go wherever she went. Whenever she got even a minute or 2 minutes, finish one round. That is what she was told. And eventually, surely she will complete her 16 rounds. But in your case, you can't hang your bead bag around and then find 2-3 minutes. You can't do that. But then you can find little breaks where you probably are in the room with your toddler. So whenever you get a little space from being away from people, even 3-4 minutes in 3 hours, if you get 5 minutes, okay, where you're by yourself or you have a little break, just grab your bead bag and do a round. So try to do your round like that and finish it off. You will finish your rounds, don't worry. 16 rounds is not really a big deal. That's the truth. It's actually very easy to finish 16 rounds. You will be able to finish 16 rounds. Try to do a major chunk of it, like 8 or 9 rounds at least in the morning. And then the rest of the day, try to find these little 5-minute spots in between where you can just go to your room, probably change your dress, at that time you just sit down, do a round like that. So keep that in your mind. If you're not able to hang it around your neck, at least keep it in your mind that whenever I get a few minutes, I should just go grab the bead bag and finish a round. And as you do it, you show a little enthusiasm like this. I know it's hard. You're already showing a lot of enthusiasm. But if you try to, do a little more, then Krishna will definitely reciprocate and he'll make things more comfortable for you, Mataji. He'll make sure that he probably gives you more time in the morning before the rest of them can come in front of you.
Okay, Mataji. So, Mataji, should I stick to fixed number of rounds or should go with like all 16 only?
Mataji, what's your situation like? Are you initiated or what's your?
No, Mataji, I'm not.
Okay, so you must have a fixed number in your mind, right? Just do those fixed numbers, Mataji. Okay. Whatever is favorable for you, comfortable for you, do that fixed number. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and try to do it when you don't have much, restrictions, but you feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you,
Keep
Mataji.
a fixed number in your mind. The idea is when you have a fixed number in mind, your sadhana will be regulated. That's why fixed numbers are nice. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji, for a beautiful class, Mataji.
Thank you, Swati Mataji.
And as Preethi Vilasini Mataji said, that have a fixed number of rounds in your mind, but eventually try to come to 16.
Yeah.
Eventually try. Yeah. Thank-
Eventually, yes.
Jyoti Mataji, you can unmute.
Dandavat pranam to you, Mataji. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My question to you is, I'm not initiated yet. I have started my 16 rounds from very beginning. Means when I started, when I touched my beads at very first, then automatically I started with 16. So I had not got that chance to how to improve my chanting one by one and keep the rounds and to regulate. Means I'm doing my 16 rounds. I'm trying to read and understand a lot. I would like to ask you what advice or what suggestions you want to give, so that when I'll get my initiation, I'll be able to give justification. Means I want to give my 100%. Even though I started with the 16, I feel somewhere that I lost the path of progressing every step. I mean, clearing all the sorts, because when I hear from a lot of others that they are chanting and they get the struggle, and then their chanting is improving, then their rounds are improving. They purify every step. So that becomes that when I look at myself, or when I try to understand what is exactly happening to me, I think I lost the opportunity to purify myself, or how I should do, so that at the initiation time I'll be giving my 100% to Srila Prabhupada. So please suggest me.
So let me repeat your question. Tell me if I'm saying it right. So your question is, when you started off with 16 rounds and you are able to maintain 16 rounds. You didn't undergo like major difficulties or hindrances. So you're not sure if the purification has happened, and if this is okay and you want to maintain your enthusiasm and purify yourself further before you get initiated. Is that correct?
Yes, now I'm getting hindrance after 6 months, because some means today I felt today I couldn't do my rounds. I just felt that something is mechanically happening, and then I came to know, okay, I'll attain, because I don't have any association. I'm in the home, so then I thought that okay, I'll ask this question, because that was in the third or fourth round that struck my chanting. So I thought that I'll stop it and I'll ask this question first.
Correct. You actually answered your question. That is the answer I wanted to tell, is that it is all about association. So if we have association is very inspiring. We get inspired by others. I don't know which part of the world you're in. You're probably in India, or
Yeah, I'm in Maharashtra, Sholapur.
okay. So if there are any groups, even Bhakti Sangha is fine if you can join the japa in Bhakti Sangha, or even in your morning time, if you have any groups where they have these, online, you don't even have to step out of your house, but online Zoom calls, chanting in association is helpful, because one thing is you feel committed. You feel committed that you want to do it well, at least, that's a beginning stage. Eventually you're going to chant for Krishna, but then at least initially that seriousness will come seeing other devotees. So chanting in association helps if that is something you're comfortable with. If not, what you could do is you can even play Prabhupada's japa. I don't know if that is comfortable for you, or you just feel like chanting alone. If that is your comfort zone, then keep a picture of Krishna in front of you and chant. You will definitely feel much more involved and more serious.
Means I should hear Srila Prabhupada's japa before I start chanting, or when I get disturbed?
Yeah, when you're getting disturbed before, it depends. You can try both, see what works for you. And even what do you call that? The boom box? Is that what you say? That box, that thing that Prabhupada Japa box is there, right? That actually kind of purifies the environment. You can keep that, and you can start your rounds. That helps.
Okay. I have another question. Before my question, when Mataji was saying, and I heard from another Mataji from India, she had the same problem. And when Prabhuji gave her a solution that if she is working in the house, then she should collect 108 grains, or say something which is quite easily carryable, and in some grain rice or what do you say, groundnuts, like 108. And whenever she gets a time when she has to do that in the middle, so that solution is practical. I thought that, but is it feasible? Is it correct? I was just thinking how that solution is effective.
So what do you do with the 108 grains?
Like he gave an example that
Use them instead of the beads.
Mataji, Chaitanya Prabhu, Mataji was there, no, Sachi Mataji. She used to take one grain of rice, and then she used to chant and keep it aside.
Okay.
So if she can't chant on the beads, then he gave that solution to her.
If you cannot chant on the beads,
then she can take one grain and chant and keep it aside.
Why you can't chant on the beads? I mean, I'm curious to know.
No, he's asking for Swati Mataji. For Swati Mataji, because she cannot chant in front of it.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, there are counters also. You can even get japa counter. Yeah. Oh, she's answering Swati Mataji's question. I thought it's her problem.
Not on.
Jyoti Mataji, you there? Or am I there? Okay, I'm there.
I think so. But I hope it's clear. So she's just giving the answer.
Okay. I thought she is doing that. Okay.
No.
Okay.
So thank you, Preeti Mataji. So Mukunda Prabhu, you have another question?
Hare Krishna Mataji, it's Kanchan. I had a question. We make so many timetables, or we do so much planning and all that stuff, but still we when it comes to the point of actually executing it, something happens. So I mean, how to help us actually execute our plans or actually do what is on our timetable?
First thing is, when we put a timetable, we should have a practical timetable. Let's assess yourself and see what you can do first. Like don't especially when you're trying to progress, and this is from my point of view or my practical thing that I'm trying to share. Of course, everyone has different standards. My standard is very low, so I'm just telling you what I would probably do. So I would probably first not aim too high. I will do first what is practical for me. So I would not consider myself to be like really capable of doing many things. So I just put a very rough timetable for myself for what is practical. I aim low first. Okay. So whatever is practical, and then gradually improve. But if I put a timetable that is not feasible for me, if it's kind of high for me in the beginning itself, I'm going to lose it on the second day itself. First day, I will somehow pull it through. Second day, I'll lose it. So start with, lower ambitions and then slowly progress. That would be my suggestion. That's worked for me to keep up my timetable, or to keep up my, supposing, let me give you an example. Okay, I want to chant extra rounds. Okay, so 16 rounds is not enough. Let me progress. Let me chant some extra rounds. So that is something I put in my mind. So when I start this, I do not say from tomorrow I'll chant 32 rounds. I know it's not practical. I'll do it for one day. The next day I'll give up. So my goal will be less. I will say I will chant tomorrow only 20 rounds. Okay. So 20 rounds I will keep for the next 5-6 months, so that I'm steady in that. And then I will increase to 25. And then I'll see how my life goes. If time permits further, and if I have the luxury to increase it to 32, then I will increase it. So cover your basics. The extras, try to put a timetable that is feasible. Okay, and mostly for the basics, the timetable is pretty easy. It should not be a big deal, because most of our basics are practically given to us by our Guru workers. So is that okay, Kanchan?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti Mataji. So we have last question. Ajay Govind Prabhu, you can go ahead.
I don't know if I can answer the question. I'll try.
No, Mataji, you can
Mostly I can't. So anyway, I'll try.
The question is not related to the chapter we talked about today. It's from the first and the second chapter.
Okay.
Vacho Vegam and the Prajalpa. If we see the Srila Prabhupada's purport in both the chapters, it kind of like resonates the same thing. So the Vacho Vegam says that one must control his speaking power. Everyone has a power to speak. As soon as we get an opportunity to, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna Katha, we speak all sort of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And Prajalpa says that another impediment is Prajalpa, that is unnecessarily talking. When we mix with few friends, we immediately begin unnecessary talking, sounding just like the croaking of the toad, which was the same example and analogy used in the first chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a repetition, or is it same, or is it different? If they are different, what is the borderline difference? One could be able to understand that, this is Prajalpa or this is Vacho Vegam. Is there any clear demarcation in them, or they can be used interchangeably? I was a little confused on that.
Vacho Vegam, as I remember from the class, and what Mataji explained also, I think she explained it on different levels. She did explain about the, how you speak. Of course, you don't gossip. That is one aspect of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mataji, but she also spoke about how your speech should be truthful, pleasing, not very loud or not very harsh. That is also there in the speech part of it, in the way you speak. And Prajalpa specifically, of course, you don't gossip also. You speak the right things. You speak Krishna Katha, which is the perfection of speech. Now, when we talk about Prajalpa, we are directly dealing with this thing of unnecessary talk, where which is not really needed, and you talk Krishna Katha. So in somewhat overlapping, but still there are more details to Vacho Vegam as well, how I see it, Prabhu.
Yeah, I agree to that, Mataji, but somehow it did not appear in the purport anywhere.
Oh,
Second
okay.
point.
Second,
the words should be palatable, they should be true, they should be beneficial to other person. There's no hint about that even in the purport anywhere.
Even in the purports, okay. So, but generally, it's understood that speech should be pleasing, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is from the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhuji. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahatam chayat swadhyaya abhyasanam. That's what Kirtida explained last time.
Yeah, Mataji, I was talking in the context of the purport which was given in NOI. So, just to understand if there is any clear demarcation.
Yeah, that's all I know of, Prabhu.
No, it's Mataji, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Clear demarcation is actually, Prajalpa is one of the aspect of Vacho Vegam. So in Vacho Vegam, if we have an urge to speech, so even keeping quiet, keeping that silence, keeping that moan is also, has to be restricted as per Vacho Vegam. And Prajalpa, and then the talking, all the materialistic talks with all the karmis and all the jnanis. So this is all the urges that we have, of the speech. Even Mauna is one of the urge of speech. That's what Prabhupada explains. So Prajalpa is one of the aspect, one of the example of Vacho
Right.
Vegam.
A subset of that, yeah.
It's a subset of that. And of course, as we quoted the verse, Anudeva Vikaram Vakyam, we have to speak in a way which is palatable, which is not agitating, which is beneficial, and of course, which is true.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your association. Anyone else? I did see another raised hand, but I think it went down. Okay. Any comments? Any questions? Any chat?
Hare Krishna, Preethi, Danvat Pranam. Such a beautiful class. I don't know if it is, very relevant to the class, but I just got intrigued. You were talking about how Shabari was a stickler to her guru's words, and how nicely she executed her guru's instructions. I was wondering, is there any reference to who her guru was, or anything like that?
Yes, it is there, but I forgot the name now. Who's ashram machine? Matanga Rishi, correct. Matanga Rishi, right. Matanga Rishi's ashram, that's right.
Okay, thanks so much, Mataji.
She's also called as Matangi, right? Because she's the spiritual daughter of Matanga Rishi.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all so much for your wonderful association. So we'll stop here, and we look forward for all of your association next Tuesday with the 4th verse of Nectar of Instruction. So stay tuned, and thank you so much, Preethi. Thank you so much, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, for your wonderful session, for your association. So we'll stop here. Vancha kalpa tarubhashta kripasindhu bhavecha Eetanam papabhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrindi ki jai. Shla Prabhupada ki jai. Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji ki jai.
Koti Vaishnav Vrindi ki jai. Hare Krishna. We'll meet again next week with the next verse with another interesting speaker.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Mataji. Hare
Very
Krishna.
beautiful question answer. And also class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Okay.